my dear friends. I'm Donald Lee, and this is Expressing and Revealing Your Truth with Donald Lee. It's a podcast in which I help you understand more about the truth of who you really are and how you can express and reveal that truth in the world. To do that, I interview people who have had transformational spiritual experiences, the type of experience that many of us wish we had, but never do. Yet by learning from my guests' experiences and the wisdom they've gained from those experiences, all of us can glimpse a bigger vision of who we really are and how we can live our lives more fully, more peacefully, more lovingly. Be sure to download my free mini ebook containing 5 of the 50 parables from my popular book, The Band Director's Lessons About Life. These little parables are short, easy to read, inspiring, and also help you to understand more about who you really are. There is a link in the show notes below to get you a free ebook. In this episode, I have a second wonderful conversation with Susan Terry. In our earlier interview, we heard about her transformational spiritual experiences: near-death experience, astral traveling, encountering spaceships, lucid dreaming, seeing auras, healing herself of cancer, etc. Today, which incidentally is quite appropriately May the 4th, 2026, May the 4th be with you day, we hear more about Susan's psychic encounters with the Pleiadians and her psychic astral dreams, as she calls them, which gave her glimpses of future events in the world, and her memories of her own past lives. We have entered into dark times, my friend, and we need to turn to God and turn away from evil, from division, and from hurting each other in this world. But let's hear it directly from Susan Terry. Okay, here we are again for a second interview with the incredible Susan Terry. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Welcome to you.
Thank you. Now, so in our last interview, we went through a more general look at your life and the events of your life, how some of the spiritually transformative experiences you had, and it's kind of how that shaped and transformed your life. So in this interview, we want to narrow in on certain things, and primarily your experience with extraterrestrials, and I guess that's particularly the Pleadians. So tell us, this started, I think, with your viewing the Pleiadian spaceships that freezing cold New Year's Eve in, was it Windsor?
No, Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls. Knew it was somewhere in the southern Ontario. So yeah, start where you want, but let's hear about your extraterrestrial encounters and how they've affected you.
Okay, I'll give a brief little lead up to it. I had just, I had left home, ran away from home when I was 15 with my mother. I was going to go by myself, but she decided she wanted to drive me. I thought, okay, I'll take a car instead of hitchhiking.
That doesn't seem much like running away from home when your mother comes with you.
Well, it is. She was running too. She needed to run. My father was abusive.
Oh, so you both were running away from home together.
Yeah, he was an abusive World War II vet. Yeah. Anyway, I won't get into that story. It's very long. So we drove out to Thunder Bay. I was there for a full year. I loved it there. And then came back to visit Niagara, and she was going to come back. She was going to move back if everything went all right. So then she ended up selling the place and moving back. So we ended up back in Niagara. Well, we were at the house with my father for 1 month, and that's all we could tolerate. He claimed that he had changed and everything was fine. He wasn't drinking anymore. All lies. And so within a month, we moved out to an apartment in Niagara. And I had met a boyfriend, found a boyfriend in there. Just before she came back, I had met someone who was a boyfriend. He was Tom.
Well, being young, blonde, and beautiful as you were, I'm sure you were never short of boyfriends.
I wasn't blonde. I was auburn. I had actually gold in my hair. My mother was just accused me of putting gold paint in my hair. So it was very dark. Anyway, so this boyfriend and I one night, it was New Year's Day, and we decided we were just going to drive around Niagara Falls, do a little tour of Niagara Falls that night. So we went along the parkway, and we got to the end of the parkway near where the Saradenbeck generating station is. There's a park just after that. So we pulled into the park, and you can see the river right from there and everything. So he had this 40 Econoline van that he'd souped it all up with double quadraphonic sound for like Whole Lot of Love. Put a bed in the back, a mattress in the back. Anyway, so we were in the back.
In case anybody's not sure, these were the hippie years, and this was a love mobile.
These were the hippie years. Yes.
Yeah.
I was very much, I was considered a hippie. I did not think I was a hippie, but I was told I was because I, wore headbands and all that stuff. And I had my mother's wire rim glasses from her reciprocal glasses from the war, like John Lennon's. I found them and I said, I had to get glasses. I thought, if I'm going to get glasses, I want these. So she gave them to me. So, and it was before John Lennon came out with them. So there you go. Anyway, so we went to this park and we started making out, but I don't know what happened. We both fell asleep. How cold? That way we were there at 9:30, and then next thing I knew, it was 1 o'clock, and I thought, oh my god, my curfew was midnight. So I said, we got to go, and I just jumped. I didn't even think about anything. I didn't. Like it was complete blank. What happened from 9:30 to that moment was complete blank. And I didn't think about it 2 years later. The van was warm. How could it be warm? Because it was turned off. And it was freezing cold. This was January.
So all kinds of weird things. The missing time, the fact that the van stayed warm in really cold weather, and the fact that you fell asleep. 2 young people falling asleep when they're trying to make out. Like, this is unbelievable.
I remember kissing him. Like it was like that almost instantaneous. So anyway, we took a shortcut and went through where the parks are, the Queenston Heights, and went around and then came up by it was a winery. Doesn't matter. It was one of the wineries in Niagara was right beside us, and his van died. It literally just died, stopped dead. Right in front of us, 100 feet in front of us, was an old schoolhouse. Behind that old schoolhouse were the Seradenbeck, the towers, the big power towers, in a ditch in the back behind that. Okay. So this is really important. All this information is important. And I didn't realize the significance until 1982. So I'll get to that.
Okay.
And that'll be our culmination of this. So he was freaking out. And I thought, oh, I saw this thing with red and white lights going around it. It did. So in the sky, right above, hovering over this schoolhouse that was 100 feet ahead of us. It was just hovering over it. And so I said, what's the helicopter doing out at this time of night? And then I looked at it and realized it was disc-shaped, and there was a green pulsing light on the bottom. I said, that's not a helicopter. That's my spaceship coming to take me home. So I went to jump out of the vehicle, and my boyfriend flipped. He went nuts. Like he was petrified. Grabbed my arm. He actually left 5 fingerprints in my arm. I don't bruise easy. And I had a coat on. He went right through it. Yeah, crazy. So it was really cold outside. So I decided, well, I'm not going out there right now. So I shut the door. Really cold. And all of a sudden I see this. It's like there's a hum. I could hear this sort of hum. Then I see another ship come up, and another ship comes up, and another ship, and another ship. So there's 5 ships hovering over this schoolhouse. And then all of a sudden they take off in a perfect V formation. And it was just, wow. And so and a crystal clear sky is where the moon is that little sliver. It's my favorite sky with Sirius, the planet Sirius nestled in it.
Right.
It was that perfect sky. I did a painting of it once, just the year before, as a matter of fact. And so I said, as soon as they took off, he turned the key and it started like nothing was wrong. And I said, follow them. Right. I mean,
we'll just put the Love Mobile into warp drive and we'll be good, right?
So we got home and I thought, well, I've got an excuse for being late.
I was held up by extraterrestrials.
Yeah, exactly. So I went home and got home and told my mother, went up with Tom and told my mother what happened. And so she called the police. She said, we should see if there were other reports of this. So a police officer came over and he took all our story. And first thing he asked, of course, what we were drinking and how we were taking drugs.
Yeah, of course. I would ask you too. Yeah, what have you been smoking?
All right. Yeah, with nothing. And I didn't do drink. I wasn't a drinker or a drugger, but I did try it, but I was not addicted to anything. I did tested a few things. I'll just say that. And I didn't really like them. So anyway, after he left, he says, I believe you. When I asked him if there were any other reports, and there was none. And he said, I believe you, but millions wouldn't.
Yeah.
That was his response, and he left. So, I mean, the whole thing, and after that event, I started shortly after that, I had one of these very prophetic all night long dreams, astral dreams. I had astral dreams when I was a young child.
So when you say astral dreams, that you are consciously aware of traveling outside your body in your astral body.
Yes, absolutely. It's like I'm there. I'm really in the picture.
Right.
So I started having these astral dreams that started off with a sunrise on the East Coast coming up, and then a beautiful sunrise. And then this statement: only those who are consciously aware of God as the source and essence of their being, as love, will survive the apocalypse that is to come. And right after,
It sounds like St. John, right?
it was very much like that. Yeah. Yeah. He was one of my favorite saints. Yeah. So following that, all of a sudden I was transported through my life, my whole lifetime.
Your future life, the life to come,
My
because you're
life.
just you're just a teenager still.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was 17. So I was being transported through the whole life. And I saw a lot of major events. It was all about the major events was important because these major events were impacting on the entire world. It was all about the world events, things like the stock market crash in 86, which I predicted.
7.
It was 86. It started in 86. Pretty sure it was 86. I did a project on it in grade 6. I predicted it. I predicted it in grade 6. Yeah. My teacher said, "Oh, that's really good." He said, "But that," because we were studying the stock market. He said, "That'll never happen." He said, "They have all these safeties in place." I said, "Oh, yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I saw that, and I saw a whole bunch of other incidents, and the poisoning of our food, poisoning of our fields, our water, poisoning of our air. I started seeing things like that. I saw wars popping up all over the world, lots of wars, people being devastated and killed everywhere
Right.
for no reason, for no reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the wars going on in the world today. There's absolutely no reason for them.
There's no reason for any of them. And they're the same people who manufactured World War One and World War II have manufactured all these wars. It's a very demonic force field. And when people realize that they have the power over them by non-consent, we have the power of love. They have no power other than what we give them. We're the ones with the power. So we are the ones that are responsible for accepting it. Yeah, so we have to recognize that. So anyway, I saw a lot of different wars happening up here, there, and everywhere. Into the So I saw the technology advancing and the internet becoming public. I was one of the first people on the internet in 1993, probably because of this dream. Yeah, the first 10,000. I was one of the first 10,000 on the internet. Right, the day it went public. So I saw also the Twin Tower crashing, the Y2K. I knew that was a farce. Big farce. I saw all of these things happening, and I saw what was coming, poisoning of the land, mostly poisoning of people through pharmaceuticals. I saw also what's coming in our near future. I saw this war beginning in 2013. I saw the actions being prepared to prepare for the war in 2020. They were actually putting them into motion. They'd been planning it for over a century, but this World War III, the apocalypse, they started really initiating the plan, like physically putting the pieces into place with the bioweapon, the creation. They started the creation of that in 2002. That's Fauci's 2002 patent.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know all this then, but in this dream, but I saw this coming, and I saw all of a sudden there was going to be a lot of tornadoes, volcanic eruptions, major volcanic eruptions, tornadoes, tsunamis, tidal waves. I saw all of these things coming in, like one after the other, pretty much. And then I see the whole of the Mississippi River flooding all the way up to pretty much to Montreal, maybe a little bit further into Canada. And then I saw it coming up the West Coast as well, through California and going inland, further than the San Andreas fault line. So there's going to be a lot of land that's probably going to Wyoming, close to Wyoming.
Yeah, Wyoming's on the other side of the Rocky Mountains, so
Yeah.
that seems unlikely. But there's it's kind of the whole coastal plain on the West Coast that
Yes.
if it were to subside by
Some of it will come around. It will come around the mountains. and go inland. It's not going to go too far, but will go inland more
Okay.
than people realize. So originally, it was thought that it would just be up the west coast, and I think Edgar Casey was on that.
But yeah, there was gonna comment on that's exactly what Edgar Casey predicted, that both the eastern seaboard and the western seaboard of North America would be inundated, and that the Mississippi Valley would also. So this is land that will subside. We call it
Yep,
that will
same,
drop, and the ocean will just come over top of it. And similarly,
absolutely.
the Mississippi Valley will drop, and that will become what's now the Mississippi River will become 50 miles wide or something like that, and that the flow will reverse. Like right now, right, it flows south from
Yeah,
almost where the Great Lakes are,
yeah,
right? But
yeah,
then the flow will reverse, and it will essentially flow into the Great Lake.
yeah,
And then, of course, Great Lakes, well, currently drain out through the St. Lawrence River. So yeah, that the whole thing will be shifted around. So he predicted this, and what we were just talking about it.
find out about his predictions till years later.
Yeah,
So this was really cool too. And I had seen the same thing. I thought, "Oh, wow, this is amazing." And I saw these maps that he had, and they were just like what I saw.
right.
They were exactly what I saw. So it was really crazy. Anyway, I remember there was like 4 of these visions. So in the end of the first 3.
So sorry, were the 4 visions all in the same night, or were these 4 separate,
No,
things?
no, every 2 years after that. So the first one was in 71, and then I had one in 73, 75, and, 70 it was 77? Yeah, it was 77. Yeah, it was because it was just before I moved to Toronto and got into television, working in TV and film.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was my deciding factor going in that direction. It's because I wanted to make a movie, but I never did, but I still have to do it. Maybe I do. Anyway, in seeing all of that, it was crazy. Then I remember all of a sudden, and I forgot the one most important thing. At the beginning of each one of these visions, I told you the statement I was given. I was to tell everyone on my path that statement who I met. So I was telling people, and they were all calling me names like Jesus freak and Bible thumper and
Yeah, yeah.
even in
And now you get called conspiracy theorist and things like
yeah. It's all names. Some stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Anyway, it was their loss. It was unfortunate, but it was what I encountered too when I did tell people about it. They thought I was nuts. They thought it was crazy. I did tell a few. I didn't tell too many people because they just thought I was insane. And
yeah, yeah. Just to protect your own sanity, you kinda shut up after a while.
well, yeah, I didn't bother me because I know what I know. So nobody's bad mouthing. I believe that they're projections of themselves.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, because that's what's in their head.
Right,
That's not in my head, that's in their head.
right.
And if people viewed that when they get confronted and started to realize that what they're confronting is the person who's telling them they're this is the one who is this. Yeah, yeah. I had a psychopathic sister, so yeah,
So you know all about that. Yeah, wow.
all good. You learn things. Life is an amazing wonder, and I can say that, and that's most important to know that what we are and what we can do and what we be is a wonder. So at the end of this, first 3 of them, I remembered it was all of a sudden there was all this calamity happening and with all the tornadoes and tsunamis and things, and the world was just shaking up. All of a sudden, these pitch black, like ink, black ink came across the sky. It was just completely blocked out the sky. And it was all closing, and there was just one beam of light coming through, and it was on me, and it lifted me up into a spaceship, this big galactic spaceship. And inside this ship, it was like a huge football field almost. Inside it was huge. And the walls and the ceiling were this white luminant, like sparkly almost. No color, but it was just white. And it was bright. And there were all these beautiful people were sitting on the floor in yogic position. And at the head of the room, I looked up, there was this large, which they were all facing that direction. There was this large, it was like a crystal chair, maybe it was marble, but it was a big chair, a chair at the front of the room. And on either side of it was a crystal globe, huge crystal globe. And inside those crystal globes, on the other side, there was all these swirling lights. You
Mm.
can massive lights swirling around in both of them. Now this is 1971, so I just want you to remember the year.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I had to find a place to sit. There was only one place left to sit, and that was at the foot of that chair. So I walked through and I smiled at everybody and I sat down on the floor on the chair. It was an amazing feeling. And then all of a sudden, this man appeared like Star Trek. This was before Star Trek, in this chair in a white robe. And he had white hair and he had these very turquoise eyes. His eyes were just piercing and this powerful voice. And there was this hush that came over the room, and I knew we just had to listen carefully to what he was saying. And he started to speak. And I didn't fully understand what he was saying, but I knew that every word was truth. So I'd have to just hold it in and remember. Remember. That's what I just kept thinking, remember. And then at the end of this speaking, all of a sudden we were coming into the earth again. We flying over the earth. So I went over, there was this big screen, and I went over there. It was after he finished speaking. And I could see all the devastation across the land. It looked like Sudbury back in
Looked
72.
like somebody looked in those days, right? They're like a moon.
It was devastated.
Yeah.
It was all wiped out, all the land. And then we came down the coast over the ocean, and I
Which coast?
was the East Coast. It was the East Coast. And we came down and we got down to probably just below where, past the United States. And there was this beautiful, it was a gulf, like a gulf. And I could see coral reefs underneath and all these fish and whales and things swimming underneath there. And then we turned into this land. And as we turned in, you could see up the hill. There was a river that ran right up to the mountain. And there was a huge range of mountains, like a crown, at the very far, far back of this. And it was all jungle like land. And we started flying in. And I knew this is where we were going to start the world anew. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is the end of each of the first three dreams. I'll tell you end of the last one in after. Oh,
1971. Do you want to tell us what the message was? You kind of skipped over that part, that when this man was speaking.
well, his message was about truth. It was, I met the man. I'm going to get to that. I met the real man. So the last one, I'll just tell you briefly how it was all the same all the way up to near the end, but the ending was very different.
Sorry. So all of the 4 lucid dreams or experiences in the astral realm, they're all more or less the same? Is that what you're saying?
More or less. The things change slightly in each thing because as things change, they do change. As time goes on, things change because of if one thing happens and another thing happens.
Right.
So if all the right things happen, it would be pretty much the same, or if better things happen, it would be better.
Because all of our decisions change the future possibilities, right?
Exactly.
The future's not cast in stone. It depends on what all of us actually do,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And I wished I'd told my story before, long before this, because it would have been different. Yeah. Anyway, I left it too long. So the last one was in 70 late 77.
Okay.
And what I remember was the ending. Everything was pretty much the same, slightly different. But the last part of the last one, I remember I was up in this beautiful hill with all these flowers like daffodils and things like that up on the top of this hill. And it was a beautiful sunny day. And there was a cherry tree all in blossom on the hill, just near the brink of it. And so you just see off into the sky. That's what you could see in the distance. And I was coming over to the cherry tree, and all of a sudden, I could see these funny little. You remember Monty Python?
Yeah.
You remember the soldiers coming up over the hill? Do you remember that scene?
Let's see. Well, I'm not sure which film that was. I didn't see all the Monty Python.
Okay, you probably
But
missed
what
this
but
one. Anyway, all of a
yeah.
sudden, I saw these hats coming up over the hill, a whole row of them, and then there was rows of them coming up over the hill, and they were Chinese soldiers
Ooh.
with machine guns. And I remember going to. It was a beautiful day. And I put my hands up, like, just put my hands up. I got no gun. They started riddling my body full of bullets.
Ooh.
I left my body and I was hovering over them and looked at my body down there. And the last thing I said was, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." That was it. That was the last one. So now we have all these Chinese troops here in Canada, in
Yeah.
China.
How exciting.
Soon as they started bringing them in, I thought, "Oh my god." I've watched everything happen that I've seen in these dreams, and I just keep shaking my head, the Twin Towers and all of that. I knew that. I saw the whole I had a dream about it again 2 weeks before it actually happened, the Twin Towers.
Wow.
Exactly. I was in New York, and I was at a conference, and I was walking towards the ocean, I guess, and all of a sudden, I heard this big explosion, and I turned around to look just in time to see a supposed plane flying into the other one. We know that was a holograph, this plane flying into it.
Yeah.
That was 2 weeks before, and I thought, "Oh my god." My son was supposed to be flying home from Vancouver, and I thought maybe it was the Vancouver coast, and I thought, "Oh my god, he's gonna be in an accident." He was just coming back from Vancouver, and so I was really worried about him, and I was really grateful when he made it home. I mean, I just can't tell you how
Yeah.
relieved I was. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then so 2 weeks later everything happened 2 weeks after I would see these things. 2 weeks later, not those dreams, but usually when I had a premonition about something, it
Right.
always happened within 2 weeks. If I saw somebody with a gray veil over them, 2 weeks later, they died.
You're right.
Yeah, always. I would see the auras. So it's crazy. I don't know. I don't understand what that 2-week thing is, but it's a fortnight. There you go. Is that a fortnight?
Yes, it is. 2 weeks is a fortnight.
Yeah. Anyway, that must be something significant. So
You have 2 weeks to do something. If maybe that's enough time. If you haven't
yeah,
done anything in 2 weeks, you're not going to do anything.
done. You're done. Yeah. So that was the end of those dreams. But then in 1978, I met the man who was in that chair. I was introduced to him. And I kept having these visions. I could see these visions of this person and I hear him speaking. And so in 78, I was working at Crawley Films. I don't know if you're familiar with who they are. They were the oldest, largest film company in Canada, first Oscar for The Man Who Skied Down Everest, and did the film Janice on Janis Joplin's life. And yeah,
Right.
I worked for Budge Crawley. He was a character and a half. Oh my God, I love that guy. He was such a hoot. And he just hired me like that, out of the blue. Yeah, I
Yeah.
sent it.
As you said before, I mean, you graduated top in your class, and the first class that was trained in essentially digital filmmaking and film editing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that was just at the time when television and movies were all moving to digital, and it was a completely new format that nobody knew anything about. So you were one of the first person trained in it, top of your class.
Yeah, and
You
how I got in there was a fluke. Well, not a fluke, but supposed to be because it was just before the course was starting in '76, and that it was I had just flipped a coin debating on what I was gonna do. Is there gonna be an an airplane pilot or working in film and maybe do produce my film?
right,
And it came up film and television, whatever,
right.
media. And so I sent a letter into Canada, and apparently it was the last letter that they got, and they immediately accepted me. They didn't even have a space, but somebody backed out, as I was told. Somebody backed out that day. And it was just before it was supposed to start. So
Yeah.
it was pretty late. Anyway, there we go.
God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, arranges things for us.
Well, they do. My whole life has been arranged or deranged. Yeah, yeah. Well, considering I'm still here. Yeah. So where was I? So anyway, in 1978, when I was working at Crawley Films, I met all kinds of interesting people. And this one man came across my threshold. His name was Yancey Bukovic. And when he was standing at the door,
You did actually you did tell this story in a previous interview.
did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe you can just, kinda skip the part about
I'll
Yahtzee
skip that part.
and explain the significance of the spirit
Oh,
of
yes.
your spiritual teacher.
Yes. So when I met him, I was invited to this concert. I think I'll go back to the concert because that was really important, and it's about the music. They're all about the music. When I heard them sing, I was invited by Yancey to this concert on December 23rd in Toronto at Toronto U. And as soon as they started singing, this was the same music I heard when I was 2 years old on the other side.
When you'd had the near death experience.
Yeah.
And you didn't know what it was, of course, at that time, at age 2.
No, it was this music. I thought, "Oh my god, I was just goosebumps."
Yeah.
And I had 3 friends there who were rock and rollers. I invited, and they couldn't handle it. So they wanted me to leave with them at the intermission. I said, "You go. I'm staying." And yeah, and I told you my contacts popped out on the last note, the last song, and ended up on the camera cable, and I ended up being the videographer for him. Anyway, that's a long story short. And this man the words that he was speaking and singing were the words that I heard on this ship. Yeah. So Yancey
So
had
well,
brought
so tell us the message.
there were several of them. What you are conscious of will constitute your experience.
And it's really because our experience is a projection of what's inside us. So
Yeah.
our own consciousness essentially projects that experience out.
Well, our consciousness, when we are conscious of our consciousness, but there's a little slight thing there. A lot of
Yes.
people are not conscious.
Yes.
Anyone who's had the injection is not conscious because they have their consciousness blocked. And I've seen that. They're not themselves at all because it's through the pineal gland. No memory is kept in your head,
Right.
by the way. It's all in your Akashic records. So when your pineal gland is blocked, you have no access to that. And that's why a lot of people go crazy. And those bioweapons actually blow up the pineal gland. They destroy it, literally destroy it. It's with that Gates nano chip. Yeah. Yeah. And the graphene, which is another thing.
Right.
Yeah. That's relative to the heart attack I had
Right.
recently.
So he became your spiritual teacher for
He was my spiritual
you.
mentor for
Yeah.
years. Yeah. So I
And
immediately,
you haven't mentioned his name. Maybe it'd be a good thing to
oh,
mention it.
that would be helpful. Yes. Kenneth G. Mills. Kenneth G. Mills. He was a musician, a poet. He was a Renaissance man. He could do anything. He was magic, pure magic. Every moment of his life was consciously presented, and he was showing us how to be and live that way, be conscious and be aware of every moment and recognize how connected we are to the source.
Right.
This is just our spacesuit. It's only for a time. And what we are, in essence, is love. Life's omnipotent verities eternal. So
And
fear,
that's a beautiful acronym you've come up with for love, life, omnipotent,
life's,
verities, meaning truth, eternal.
yeah, he came up with that acronym.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And fear is false evidence appearing real. Yeah. He's every unfoldment he gave, never refer occasionally he'd bring a book in to refer to something, but it was all spontaneous. Every single one of the thousands of unfoldments he gave. Thousands. And his whole life was spontaneous. He started a choral group called the Starscape Singers, who were amazing. So I was the videographer for them as well, and for their rehearsals. And at the concerts, I was in the back room doing the production, the switcher and all of that, and telling the camera what to do where.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the most amazing experience I've had in this lifetime. Yeah. Then I got stupid and got married.
Well, marriage isn't all stupid.
Well, I wish I'd stayed, and I could have probably, but my husband's not there, so it doesn't
Yeah.
go that way. Yeah. So
So tell us that we wanted to kind of focus on your contacts with the Pleiadians and your extraterrestrial experience stuff, which went throughout your whole life, but we haven't really come back to that. We started with when you were 17 and saw the spaceships.
and I saw
What
spaceships when I was little too. When I was about 4, there's a near our house is this place called Goldman's Pond, and there was these ships hovering over the pond that I saw when I was quite young, and I always felt connected to them. Now, the Pleiadians, I know I had dreams of living there. Like I said, I had from very young, I had these astral visions and dreams. I traveled all over, like past lives into Atlantis, to Egypt, to Lemuria, and I remember Mars and other planet.
when you remember Mars, you remember Mars
Before the devastation.
before that destroyed its atmosphere.
It was like Earth. The same destroyers who destroyed Mars are here now. They're the same ones. They chased us here. Yep. Yep. The Archons. Yeah, and there's other reptilians and Archons, and there's a bunch of other alien life forms who started slipping in at the end of the Lemurian age. They destroyed and sunk Lemuria, Mu, the continent of Mu.
Right, right.
And they also destroyed and sunk the continent of Atlantis. Same thing. I remember that one.
So now this is somewhat different from what I have heard from other sources
Yep.
that, well, particularly with Atlantis, that they essentially had destroyed themselves by the misuse of their own energy, right? They used energy from the sun, essentially somehow using crystals. We haven't
Yep.
developed that kind of technology yet. But
Oh,
that was their energy source that provided energy for the whole Atlantean civilization, and through the misuse of that, they ended up disrupting whatever it was, the geology of the whole planet that caused Atlantis to break up and then to finally sink altogether.
so
You're saying that, so explain what your understanding is then a little more carefully.
it's very much what you said, but there's more to it than that. A lot more to it than that. So in Atlanta, we used to be male, female, one. We were man, not woman, not
Right,
man. It was man. That was in the Lemurian age.
right. Okay.
We were gods. We had the ability to come and go at will as well. But they lured us into the physical. These archons, when they came in, bit by bit.
Well, Edgar Casey has said, just as kind of this perspective, and he said that in Lemuria we were not so bound to materiality as we are now, and that we were spirit, we were energy, and we could come and go more, just like you said, but we gradually became more fixed into materiality, and most of us don't have the ability anymore to come and go from our physical bodies.
It's a ease God out. Ego.
Ego, ease God out of our consciousness. That's good. I like that one too. You're full of wonderful acronyms.
I have lots. There's many of them. Anyway, near the end of Lemuria the archons were getting a little aggressive, I guess. And there were I'm
Okay,
not even sure
let,
about
let-
this.
let me
the
ask
six
you to
was-
clarify this too, because archons is a term that comes from the Gnostics.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know what the name was back then, but they're the same entities. It's just
Okay,
carrying the name back there. I do remember it from Atlantis. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. There was crystal palaces and there was monorails, you could travel on. It was more advanced than we are today. Way more advanced in
In
Atlantis.
the,
It wasn't anything like the movie. I remember when I was 4 and we went to see this movie, The Lost Continent of Atlantis. My father would pile us all into his van, his Volkswagen van, and my brother and I were put in the back. I was 4. And my brother was 2. So we were put in the trunk, and they figured we'd be sleeping. So we're in our pajamas. I didn't sleep a wink. I watched through the whole movie. I'm not missing this because when I was watching it, I thought, oh my God. Well, I remembered it, but I knew it wasn't like that.
yeah,
I kept thinking, well, it's not like that. It wasn't like that, So, but I knew that it was about Atlantis. So, that's what this was about. And at the end, they made it look like a Roman or Greek or something. Uh,
yeah.
this
Because the movie producers didn't know.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Too bad they didn't talk to me. Not kidding. Yeah. Yeah. So what I saw it was the most beautiful place. But Archon started experimenting on humans and splitting the XY. That's when the XY chromosome was split. Because it used to be male, female, one still. And they split your androgynous. And they started splitting the XY chromosome and creating it male and female. And that was the intent so that we would destroy ourselves. That was their intent. They figured if they split us up, we didn't have the same power. The power of woman is the conscious power. Power of man is fight and flight, right?
Is the active, yeah.
Yeah.
We have those different characteristics, strengths, focuses, right, between the masculine and the feminine. Today we talked about in terms of masculine and feminine energy, or masculine and feminine archetypes and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why they went after the gays, the population, the male population that was considered gay. They were just actually recognizing their own femaleness. They carry both the male female characteristics. And so that's why they tried to destroy them.
Who tried?
In this era, the pharmaceutical.
Nowadays. I think there's more to it than that, but I
There's
hear what you're saying.
more to it than that, but that's part
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah, there's more to it than that, but that is definitely part of it. So they went after them initially. That was
So what we've been talking about, the last few minutes has been you remembering, consciously remembering experiences that you had when you lived in Atlantis, when you lived in Lemuria, right?
yeah. I do remember that the end of Atlantis, we had a choice that we could go into the ocean and become dolphins,
Really?
we could stay there, or or we could take a ship to Egypt. I chose the ship to Egypt.
Right.
Yeah, I just remember that. I don't know why, but I do remember the ship to Egypt. And the whole thing of Pliny the Elder. Are you familiar with Pliny the Elder?
Yes, the Roman historian.
Yeah, because he brought out the story of the dolphins, those at the end of Atlantis. Before I don't remember being there for that, but I do understand his view on the story was to the ones that chose to stay behind dove into the ocean before they were burned and became dolphins.
So there was burning, there was fire also at the end. Well, I suppose,
Yeah, it was destroyed. It was completely destroyed. There was
yeah.
fire as well.
It have been like fire from like when the whole these geological changes happened, there would have been upheaval, lava coming out, I suppose, that would have
Mhm.
sparked yeah. Even though it was really destroyed by water with lava coming up and that sort of thing, you could
Yeah,
spark.
but it started with fire, and then it was the water, the lava, all of that came. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, tragic ending, and probably would agree with me when I say that, as I've been informed, that basically the vast majority of us as souls who are here on the earth at this time were in Atlantis, and we are having to essentially go through that experience again, and hope where we better choose better this time, right? Or we're going to destroy ourselves again.
yeah, and it's not our personal selves, it's our whole civilization.
Yes,
It's our
yes.
whole civilization, and we have to unite. We have to unite, we have to love one another. Have
And that
to
was it was just kind of your recollection from that time also that, uh, at the part of the root of this problem in Atlantis was the Great Division, right? Edgar Casey talked about between those who followed the law of one or, well, followed the spiritual teaching of the one God, and those who followed,
Wow, Beloyal.
yeah, Belial or Belial or whatever, and that sort of the good versus evil, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, and we're in that right now. We are in the thick of it, and if
Yeah.
people don't wake up, they have not got a chance, and people who are awake need to stand up.
Yeah.
They don't need to run, they don't need to hide, because you cannot run and hide. You can't
Yeah.
hide from anything. Yeah, we just have to stand up and speak out. I have no fear. I mean, even right now, I'm speaking out against, LifeWave. I don't know if I told you I had a hard.
Yeah, you told me that, but we don't have time to get into all of that. Your
Yeah, I
heart
won't get into it, but it has to do with LifeWave.
yeah,
I
your recent heart attack.
I just figured out what was the trigger,
Yeah,
and I figured out LifeWave has graphene in it.
yeah.
It
Anyway, we wanted to focus on your so what other contacts and information have you got from the Pleiadians? So you also consciously remember some lives, experiences you have had as a Pleiadian? Am I
oh,
understanding?
the planets. I remember that I was on their original planet before they went to the Pleiades. The reason they fled, the Pleiadians are all very highly spiritual.
Right.
And the planet, it was a beautiful planet. And the destroyers, same ones that are here, came into their planet, and they built something that's very much like the CERN
Okay.
in the center of the planet. So I remember, well, I was asked to take a group of, well, they created sort of beings that were a little more aggressive to protect them.
So the Pleiadians, because
Pleiadian,
the Pleiadians are highly spiritual and not aggressive, you're
not at
saying
all.
they created beings that were more aggressive that
A
would
little
protect.
bit more aggressive so that, they were spiritual and aggressive so that they could protect them, and then they realized that they'd done the wrong thing, that was not the thing to do. They felt
And
badly about it.
then they couldn't
So
then they couldn't control them, is that what happened?
well, no, they just felt that it was wrong to do that, and they were going to maybe destroy them or something. So I remember I was one of the group that decided to take them and go to another. We went to Sirius.
Right.
We took them over to the planet Sirius. And so I was one of the ones who was with that group there. And then just before the Pleiades were blown to smithereens, their original planet was blown to smithereens. I forget the name of it. I used to know it. It starts with an F and it's a long name.
Right.
What the effing name?
Yeah, that's right.
I will find it. One of these days it'll come back to me.
So I think this was part of the very long Orion Wars. Is that right?
It would be within that time, yeah. Yeah, in that time frame. So I went to Sirius and then the group, a very large group of the what I would call scientists from the Pleiades, they went to Pleiades. They left their planet and went to Pleiades just before it was blown up.
Right.
And it was literally the Milky Way, what we're looking at, that was their planet. 10,000, I don't know, 20,000 years ago, maybe more.
Oh, a lot more than that. I mean,
A lot more, yeah. A
The
lot.
Orion Wars were probably millions of years ago.
Yeah, maybe millions.
But
Have no idea of time.
yeah,
Just
but what you said there, Susan, doesn't make sense. I mean, the Milky Way is our galaxy, and what we see in the Milky Way is the millions of stars.
yeah,
So they didn't all come from one planet.
well,
Star is bigger than a planet.
it was a big planet. I don't know. That's all I know. That's what I've been told. And yeah, and that's what was my understanding.
Okay.
So and then I of course connected with Billy Mayer.
Yeah. So the famous long running and that was kind of an anglicized version of his name, right? But it is in Switzerland, and this started in the 70s.
1974. So he was 4 years after my encounter with the
Right. Right. And he was repeatedly visited by flying saucers, a couple of small ones that had only what, three, maybe
3 or 4.
beings in the saucer, and they communicated with him telepathically. They landed sometimes, talked to him in person. He had lots of photographs, and then there was the three Americans. I mean, lots of people, right, went and talked to him, but the book was produced by the three Americans, only one of whom is left alive now, right? It's
Brit
just
Elder.
Brit Elders.
Yeah, no, I've connected with her. Yeah. So when I heard about that, 1982, when the book came out, it was published in Toronto and it was being sold in Toronto at the world's largest bookstore. So a friend of mine had shown me the book and I was so amazed. I I'm blown away. It was my boyfriend at the time. He gave me the book to look at and read. I said, I've got to have this book. So he told me that it was at the world's largest bookstore on Elm Street in Toronto. So I was down there and it was a beautiful sunny day. And I went in and he told me, you go up on the escalator, you go in the door, up the escalator, and just go around, and there's a whole bookshelf full of them. So I did that and I got up there and I looked at the bookshelf, it was empty, completely empty. This is like the day after. Okay. So there was a guy standing there in the store and I says, can you tell me where I can find contact with Pleiades? He looked at me. You want that book?
It's kind of like that. Open the over the trench coat, right? Hey, you want to buy a book about the planes?
I said, yeah, I want that book. And so he said, come with me. And he took me back down the escalator. And under the escalator was the desk, the sales desk, and the manager was standing at it. And so he went behind the desk and he goes to the manager, goes, she wants that book. I said, what's going on here? And so the manager said, well, these three men in black suits with dark sunglasses came in and in black.
Yeah.
Okay. This is 1982, before the movie. And they gave a card to him and said, if anybody comes in to ask for the book, you let us know who it is. And they cleaned off all the books off the shelf. They took them all off. Yeah. They didn't want this out there, this information. Right. So I said, well, I'm not telling you my name, but thanks very much. I went back to and asked him for the address so I could order the book and I'd get it somewhere else. Anyway, he gave me the address and I had viewed his book and I just photocopied all of it, just in case. So I'd have the whole book. And then 2 weeks later, my letter came back, no such address written on it. Well, at the same time as I asked him for it, the second version was out and he'd already put in an order for it. He received the second version So I ordered a
What do
second.
you mean that, like, book 2? Because it was
No, I
originally
got the book.
published in book
Two,
2
book
in 2
two. Yeah, I
books.
have that. So I ordered it at the same time with him. I said, "Get order me one too," and he ordered that.
Right,
This was they were going underground, but they got the books out before they were completely shut down.
right,
So I have book 2 and I have a photocopy of book 1. But it was so meaningful for me. So right after that, I went back to, Niagara Falls. I was visiting my sister there who lived there, and this is, like, what, 12 years later or 11 years later after, yeah, 11 years after that encounter I had in Niagara with the boyfriend.
right, right,
And I was visiting my sister and my niece, and I said, "We should go out to that field and see if we can see anything." I told her about the story.
right.
Now, this is what I've told you. So we went there, and by the old schoolhouse was gone that was there, and they had a Greek community center built there. Behind there was barbed wire fences, and then there was this field of grass that was at least 4 feet high. And behind that was the big towers for the Surrounding Beck.
Yeah,
Tower,
these are the
or
power
towers.
transmission lines running from the power plant.
That's
Yeah,
right. So we hopped over the fence, the barbed wire fence, carefully, and walked through the grass, and all we found 5 perfect, I wish I'd had a camera, 5 perfect crop circles there. 5 perfect 20-foot diameter crop circles. So we each went and stood in one of them. We were in this field. All you see is this grass between us. You can see our heads poking out. My hair was sticking straight up, right in the middle there. It was so amazing, and on the hair on my arms, wherever, it was all sticking up. It was really, really exciting. Anyway, we decided to go back there. When did I go back there again? A couple of years later or something. No, it was after I got married, and I went back there with my, husband, and it was all grown in. The whole thing was grown in with the fence, and everything was all covered with prickly bushes
okay.
stuff, and the field was, you couldn't see it at all. You couldn't get through. Yeah, we went back and I think it was 88. Yeah, it was 88. Yeah.
So
Anyway,
just before we kind of wrap things up, we've been going for an hour already. Susan, your kind of astral dreams, as you call them, you saw some things that have yet to happen, right? Can you
yes.
just tell us about that, and as we kind of wrap up our interview for today?
Well, there's going to be major flooding and major.
You did mention that.
Yeah, I did mention that, and there's also major devastation of
Yeah,
the earth. Major devastation. I did mention that.
yeah,
Yeah, it completely wiped out like Sudbury. So by fire, I would say most of it looked like it was wiped out by fire or radiation. Probably radiation from all those stupid satellites and stuff up there. God, I
right.
mean, they've got DEWs up there, which is crazy. Yeah, there's no need for any of this. All of this technology has got to go. All of
Yeah,
it. 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, all of it has to go. And if people don't realize that, I mean, I died from a heart attack because I was electrocuted in a parking lot with a 6G lamp. What the hell would they be putting 6G lamps in a ski hill parking lot
yeah,
between every car? What is the purpose of that? Now,
yeah.
I did find out that it was triggered by, I had a LifeWave patch on my neck. I just found that out recently, and one on my heart. And I was trying to figure out why I was attacked and my husband wasn't. I had just recently found out a week ago that there's graphene in those patches.
Right.
Graphene. I sat in the meeting with the gentleman, Dr. Isnowak, who is the world authority on graphene, all graphene. And that was in November 23rd, 2021. I At the last minute, I got an invitation to this meeting. I get this all the time. Things pop up on my screen for me. They tell me, "You gotta go there." So it was just half an hour.
Were you physically present? Was he in Ontario?
No, he was no, no, no. He was in Germany, but it was online, and I got this message that I needed to be at this meeting with this doc. I had no idea who he was, and
Right.
I recorded it. I'm so glad I recorded it.
Oh,
He
good.
was murdered the next day. He was warning the world that this graphene is the most dangerous element. It's live. They're like little 50 nanometer, and they line up like razors,
Yeah,
little soldiers and razors, and they cut through your veins. Anyway, so with this on my neck, it attracted and it's triggered by electromagnetic frequencies. So I was zapped more than once. So it first at that one parking lot, and it literally went through, and it felt like claws of an eagle, electric, dug
Right.
into my chest. Literally, I felt like there were 3 claws going in both sides and squeezing the life out of me. And I fortunately had my phone open and my EMF reader was right there, and I turned it on, and it registered over 3,000 microtesla.
And what's the safe limit?
60,
60.
supposedly safe. No, nothing is safe, to be
Yeah.
honest. 60 is the supposed safe zone for life forms. Anything over 60 is not.
Yeah.
That's green. And then it goes starts working in the yellow and then the red. And this
Yeah.
was in the red. And I couldn't believe what I was.
3,000. So if I'm not mistaken, is that 50 times the supposed safe limit? If I'm doing the math right.
I think you're right. Yeah, at least.
Yeah. That's why you had a heart attack and died, and they brought you back to life, and you're a miracle. And the doctor couldn't figure it out. He said, people who have this happen to them, they don't make it.
Yeah,
And
that's what
he
he said.
told me before, he wrote right on your chart in the hospital, miracle,
He did.
because he doesn't know how you survived. Nobody else survived.
He said no one has survived this amount of devastation because I was electric. My whole heart was electrocuted. It was crushed, and the left artery was blocked completely by this white substance, which is the nanochips. When they get the electrical frequency, they get into the veins, and that's the white stuff they've been pulling out of people who have autopsies of people who have received the bioweapon because it's got graphene in it. And then they're putting graphene in everything now. Everything since then, since they killed him. They murdered him the next day. It wasn't even the next day. It was, my next day, but not his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the meeting? Because I remember seeing that video. Was that the meeting where he was in the attic of his house broadcasting and explaining this, and the police came right in? Like, you see them on the video coming in and saying, you're under arrest, you have to go. And he said,
It was the meeting before this one.
Okay.
This was that was the meeting just before this one. So he was having another meeting. They didn't come in then, but they came in after the meeting was over. He'd gone downstairs to get some milk or something. His pregnant girlfriend, who was upstairs, she called for him and she didn't know what happened. And she came down and there was something wrong. He was disoriented. His head was all weird. Probably a DEW. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a DEW. And then he died. He was taken out and he died. And so I've been following them on Telegram. So I followed it and got all the stories on him. He's an amazing man. And he was there for the people. And he said that someone was planning to put them into these injections into children. He said, you can't do that. That's deadly. He's talking about children from 12 and up. They've been doing babies.
It ended up being 6 months enough.
I know, it's sick. It's all sick. All pharmaceuticals, if anyone listening to this, all pharmaceuticals from the 1880s on, poison, pure poison, every single bit of it. What they've done is they bought up all the holistic schools. J.D. Rockefeller and Carnegie bought up all the holistic schools of medicine.
Susan, we're getting into a whole other topic area.
Yeah, we'll go on to this one later, but I just want people to know this. All pharmaceuticals are poison. Go for all holistic medicines. Eat your healthy foods. Don't put GMOs. Don't put anything on anything. No chemicals. Leave them out of your life. All of them. Just go from the heart. Know that God created all that is good. Anything that he did not create, don't touch it. That's
wonderful. And let's end with that beautiful message that you remember from all of your astral dreams.
Okay. Only those who consciously acknowledge God as the source and essence of their being as love will survive the apocalypse that is to come. And it's already here.
It's already here. And you and I acknowledge God as our source, as the only one that is. Amen.
And God is not a man in a cloud.
That's right.
God is the universal energy of love. That's creation itself. Life's omnipotent, verities eternal.
Right on. And Susan, I love you. You're beautiful, beautiful soul. Thank you for sharing your experiences. It's incredible. Our listeners will will love this. I'm sure we'll all go. Well,
I hope you don't go nuts, but at least go something. Go good. Go for the gold.
Thank you again, Susan. Once again, it's been a joy, a pleasure, my honor to have you on and to hear the incredible wisdom and experiences you have to share. Thank you, and God bless you on your journey.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Okay, I'm going to hit end recording.